Welcome to the Founder Talk Show. I'm going to start with enlightening you all with a fact. Transportation of biological samples in suboptimal conditions can be a deterrent to accurate diagnosis, because temperature here plays a critical role in transportation of these thermally sensitive samples. It is especially an important consideration now that the throat swab samples from various COVID-19 testing booths and kiosks are being transported from these booths and kiosks to the laboratories. But we have a solution, and that's been given by a startup called Black Frog Technologies, who have recently developed their product Emvolio. And they've also won the Qualcomm Design Challenge 2019, as well as the Samadhan Challenge organized by the Ministry of Human Resources Development. Welcome to the show, Mayur. We also have the Chief Technical Officer, Donson, and we also have the Chief Operations Officer, Ashlesh, joining here. So not that there are no existing devices for transportation. How does your device score over the existing technologies?
So the routinely used solution for transport of thermally sensitive biologicals is the age-old icebox, which has been around for over a century now. So the conventional practice is that you condition freeze ice packs for over 7 to 8 hours in a refrigerator, and then you use that as passive refrigeration in an insulated carrier. The problem is that most biologicals require a very stable 2 to 8 degrees Celsius platform for transport, but ice boxes tend to freeze the samples as in the temperatures go below 0 degrees Celsius, and most vaccines specifically are freeze sensitive, which means the efficacy of the vaccines are lost when the temperature is not maintained between 2 and 8 degrees Celsius, and as a result we end up administering inefficacious vaccines. So and this has been a very it's a very crucial problem, and something that's been addressed for over 20 years ago by WHO. And India loses close to $7.5 million worth of vaccines every single year because we use this ice-based refrigeration system. So as a replacement to this particular situation, we developed a portable electronic refrigeration system that will maintain a very specific preset temperature for up to 12 hours in the field, so that you can take the device out, you bring back the leftovers, and you recharge the device just like a laptop or a cell phone. You plug and play. So this is a battery powered system which is adaptable for solar power as well. So that's another aspect that we're exploring with Celco Foundation right now. So yeah, our primary competitor or the scenario that we're replacing is the ice boxes.
Okay, so Mayur, coming to the business idea itself or the product idea itself, was this something that you started developing post-COVID, or was it, or were you working on this idea before the crisis started?
So we've actually been working on this since 2017. We were funded by BIRAC under DBT of Government of India for development of a proof of concept, and then we were funded by Venture Center for of seed funds for scaling up our industrial design. This was specifically for a portable medical grade refrigeration system for transport of vaccines. Fortunately enough, we were at the right spot because vaccines and viral samples require the same temperature range. It's 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, right? So it was just obvious for us to move in this direction to help in mitigation of this current crisis. So we very minimally altered the technology that we had already developed previously for vaccine deployment, and now we are using it. We're leveraging the same technology for transport of COVID-19 specimen.
So Mayur, at what stage is your product? Is it still at the initial design stage, or you started producing them? And if you already started producing them, who are your clients currently?
I would say we're slightly between an industrial design and design for manufacture stage. We've been deploying our units on a one ad hoc basis since November. Like I mentioned, we were specifically working for vaccine deployment, and all of these units are manufactured by us. We assemble it in-house, the entire from the plastic components to the electronics and the mechanical refrigeration aspects. Everything is done in-house. So we make about 5 to 6 units at a time, and that's kind of our capacity. But we're moving towards a design that can be easily replicated. So that's the stage where we're at. So that I mean, the vision is that by September of this year, when Serum Institute of India claims that we'll be ready with the COVID-19 vaccine. We want to be prepared so that these vaccines are delivered efficaciously and the coverage is improved. We reach every nook and corner of the country in protecting ourselves against this pandemic. So that's kind of where we're at.
Ashlesh, can you talk about the design parameters and how what kind of capacity does it cover? And also, I want you to talk about the life of a battery, because if this is going to be battery powered, what is the lifespan of these batteries? How much time does it? After how many hours do you have to recharge it? And are they reliable? Because you're also carrying these, critical samples for testing.
So this is our device. It's called Embolio, and this is the top is the main cooling element here, and inside when you open it, you access the cooling chamber. The chamber itself is around 1.5 liters in volume, and the number of samples, for example, for COVID samples, based on your packaging, you can take up to 20 to 30 samples at a time. And if you're carrying vaccines, you can carry even more, and that's more than enough for a day, which is more than enough for a day's travel, right? And the design of the product is kept made in such a way that you can use it for 1 day of travel. That includes the battery and its capacity also. So once it's fully charged, you can run the whole device for up to 8 to 12 hours based on the temperatures you're having in ambient. And regarding the battery quality, it is we have taken care of design in such a way that it's a medical device, and we abide by all the safety standards required by a medical device in terms of electrical safety and battery safety and everything. So there is no issue with the battery. It is a standard lithium-ion battery, and it can be recharged within 3 to 4 hours, and it will last for 9 to 12 hours in the field.
Ashlesh, one critical element I'm assuming here is I'm kind of thinking about it because it has a battery, and in most cases it may have to fly from a place A to place B. What kind of safety parameters or safety test or certification you have for it, and is it something that can be sent by air, which meets the air safety requirements?
See, currently the thing is the battery is quite large, and the device itself is not for the air transport yet. So it is a large battery, and this size of battery is not allowed by any flights right now. And also the application of the device is not for that kind of transport where you transport in the air from like a big city to other city, right? It's a different application where you collect from the last mile, which is sub-center zones, and then it goes to the major zones by road or by rail or something, which is within 1 hour, 1 day of transport, right? And also in the other application of vaccines, again, it is for the last mile of giving vaccines. Like say there's a sub-center in a small town, and from that town you have to go to a place where there's no electricity or any kind of cooling available. You go to villages and administer the vaccines, right? It is that kind of application, and not current application is not for traveling from, say, example, Bangalore to Mumbai or something, not by flight.
So basically, this is ideal fit for a last mile connectivity sort of thing, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. That is the most important thing which we lack in the whole system right now. Say from bigger metropolitan cities, there is obviously good connectivity. There is no issue at all. The flights also have their own storage for vaccines and things, and we don't. We are not targeting that market right now.
Now, Donson, your product costs about 2.4 lakhs. And you're also working with BIRAC. Have you taken up with them to get some kind of subsidies from the government so you can make the product more affordable?
So the reason why the product right now is costing about 2.5 lakhs is because they are made by us, and they're made in-house, and they're all one-off units. So we're making in a batch of 3 to 5 units at a time. And the process we are involving for making these units are mostly handcrafted process. Basically, it means you are either CNC cutting a block of plastic or you're 3D printing it. So these are very expensive processes, and they take a lot of time for you to make one unit. So that is why it costs so much right now. But so basically, we are in a stage right now where we're actually getting into injection molding. So in about 3 to 4 months' time, we'll be at a point in time where we can actually mass produce in bulk. So where we'll be injection molding it, and that time it's going to be very, very cheap as compared to how it is right now. So we are estimating it to come down to about somewhere between 45 to 50,000 rupees, which we'll be selling it at, based on how it's looking so far. As of now, right, including certifications that will be going for and all other activities.
So Donson, during this COVID, while you were working on this product, what were the challenges that you met? Because people couldn't come together, people couldn't work together. What was the challenge? Do you want to talk about that?
In terms of what the company faced itself was that since the lockdown was imposed all of a sudden, and we did not have any time to prepare for it, so that meant that most of our components which were already on the way were like stuck in transit, and our employees also who are responsible for assembling the units and testing and deployment and stuff, so they were also trapped in different districts or different areas of the country. So that was a major issue for us in the first month at least, because operations kind of took a major hit that time. But then things started smoothening out right now, so it's getting better now. So we are back in operation, full operations right now, and then we are actually putting together more devices right now so that we can deploy as soon as possible. So we approached Udupi district where we are based out of. We went to the DHO. We told them that our device is going to be maintaining a stable 2-to-8-degree platform for transportation of samples, so which is very relevant for transportation of COVID samples as well. So after interaction with the DC as well as the DHO and the DMO as well, so they finally agreed to pilot one device at their government hospital. So we have deployed this unit at, I think, over 1.5 months back. I think just a week after the lockdown started. And the feedback has been very, very good. I mean, they're very, very happy that they don't have to worry about other hassles involved, because you have to understand that when you say COVID samples, they have to dedicate a person, a ward, an area which is cordoned off for anybody else to come into and go out of. So if you have a dedicated unit for that particular ward, it becomes simpler for them to put the samples in it, close it, and then take it and deposit to the nearest surveillance unit, which is from where they'll be giving it to the nearest lab for testing. So that way, our device is very easy to use. It maintains a 2-to-8-degree platform. It's very convenient. There's nothing to be done. You just have to plug it in. There is a plug point there. You plug it in, you run it the entire day, and it's very easy. And generally, what would happen before was that they would collect the sample twice. So they would collect once in the morning and once in the afternoon, because you're not supposed to keep the samples out, right? You have to always refrigerate it as soon as you collect it. But the good thing about our device is that it also works as a standalone fridge. So in case you're starting in the morning, you turn it on at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it is running. And you can plug it into the source, and it'll keep maintaining that 4-degree platform continuously. So what they do is they collect the samples, they put it at 11 o'clock, they close it, they keep the samples in it itself, and then they go on till afternoon, and in the afternoon they have more samples, so they collect it again, and then they put it in the same device. So this way they don't have to travel to and fro again and again. So that hassle also is not there anymore, right? So that was a major thing that was like they really were happy about. So after that, everything went smooth. So I think they were recommended by their staff as well to procure more units. So then the DMO actually asked us to get more units. So we are deploying about 3 more units in Udupi itself, and we are also getting a lot of interest from other states as well. So through our partners, that is Celco, mostly Celco Foundation, we have also sent 1 unit to Chennai, which is Ashwini Hospital. Again, this is going to be for transportation of samples itself, but this will be used in a mobile kiosk. So wherein like this kiosk goes to the communities, and then you collect the samples there. So the plus point about our device is that, first of all, like how Mayur had mentioned, that ice packs are not required. This will also run on solar power as well. It is completely DC operated device. So you have a solar panel which already is mounted on top of a mobile clinic, and you just plug it in, use it like a normal fridge. At the end of the day, you can just carry it and you can just come back.
So Mayur, you have won 2 competitions back to back. What was it? I mean, what did it mean to you winning Concom competition?
So Qualcomm's Design in India Challenge was a year-long program where they shortlisted 10 companies who were part of the cohort for technology development as well. One of the aspects of our cold chain management is a IoT-based system where we have a GSM GPS system on board which transmits live vital statistics back to the headquarters as well. This is for better decision making in terms of immunization. And for this, we're using Qualcomm's technology, and we've been associated with them for quite a long time now. And it looks like we're going to have a very long partnership with them. So this winning this competition with Qualcomm has been very useful and very valuable. They've been very helpful in technology development, and we're kind of getting in contact with a couple of other industry partners as well, specifically for manufacturing and piloting our technology. So this has been very valuable. The second one was Samadhan, which is conducted by Ministry of Human Resources Development. This was specifically for COVID-19 mitigation. So a lot of startup companies are now kind of adapting their technology for kind of to see how they can get in on how we can get ahead of this pandemic as quickly as possible. So this was very valuable because the government agencies are very exact. I mean, I would say one of the things that the COVID-19 pandemic has done is that it's gotten the government of India on front foot right now. There is this new renewed sense of scientific temperament among all tiers of government, which is very fresh and very good. Even our deployment with the government hospital has been very surprising, because this is not the first time that we went to talk to them. This is the first time they've accepted the technology and they're very excited about it. So that's very it's very promising, and I think it's going to set us on this course where even in the future, the next 5 to 10 years is going to be kind of it's going to be shaped because of what we're going through right now. So I feel like it's not just about the competition, but this crisis has done a lot of good in terms of setting our priorities straight as well.
So the point you made about your refrigerator, portable refrigerator, being used as a standalone refrigerator, I'm sure a lot of our viewers would want to know that how many bottles of beer can fit in.
So the thing is, we're kind of increasing the capacity right now, specifically for that market. So right now, I would say 2 cans of beer will probably fit in. Okay. And yeah, that's a good thing for the summer. But if you are, I would say for the team, we would require to carry 2 units to each of us. So if you are the kind who drinks 2 pints at a time, that's pretty good.
So are you looking to hire more people?
Yeah, so we are at a point where capacity building is our priority right now, because we're moving away from R&D into small scale production. So definitely recruitment is at the it's our biggest priority right now, which is slightly difficult because we had quite a lot of plans of visiting a couple of colleges and campus recruitment, and all of that is disturbed with this crisis right now. So I think that's going to be definitely going to be a challenge to. It's one thing for human resource staff employment and things, but for production, and we have to carry out tests and recruitment questionnaires, and this is going to be very tricky. So we're just figuring that out right now. So yeah.
So what are you looking for ideally in a candidate?
I would say a fundamental passion for technology is kind of key here, because we're a startup company. Obviously, in terms of pay, we're not going to be able to match a large company. So what we want to look for is guys and girls in their 20s who want to learn how technology is made from scratch and how it's going to be commercialized. There are a lot of people who do like that, and then there are a lot of people who are not okay with that because it's very stressful. We don't have set timings of work. So I'll just give you an example about this. We constantly have this hesitation because we were deploying the device for COVID-19 specimen transport, right? And there's a lot of risk that we are putting ourselves in as well. And obviously a lot of young engineers and their families are hesitant about this. So it requires this, extra level of dedication where work and your learning comes ahead of these things, because this is something that we're all going through, right? COVID-19 is not discriminating between people. So it's one approach would be that I'm going to take 2 months of leave and let this wave pass on, and then, go find a job. On the other, you can, come, like you were saying, there's a whole lot of layoffs going on, and the job market is pretty bad as well. But the job market that is asking, like, for example, us, we are quite demanding with our recruits as well that way. So yeah, that's something we definitely look forward to in a fresh recruit where.
Okay. So coming very specifically, do you have a number that you're trying to recruit? And is it going to be full-time, part-time, interns? And what kind of skill set specifically, if you can mention, broad base?
Right. So, I mean, it's more of production related jobs itself that we're looking at. I think Johnson would be at a better place to talk about the numbers specifically, but we're looking at mostly engineers who are good with hands-on work, more production oriented, but it can be electronics or mechanical. But because R&D is something we're kind of closing right now, that's the phase that we're getting. I mean, in terms of the broader picture for the company, we're trying to wrap up the R&D aspects, and we have a very strong team of engineers who are very good with R&D already. So production is something that we're stepping into right now. So that's the kind of expertise and preferably some work experience of having worked in a small scale industry or having worked in manufacturing small electronic equipments, right? I think that's something that we would look out for.
So when it comes to manufacturing, it looks like you are going to be setting up your own manufacturing fabrication unit. You don't are looking at outsourcing any of your work. Is that correct? My understanding.
Yeah, so we are certainly not looking at contract manufacturers right now because our product it has a lot of very customized components in it. So we outsource very specific aspects to different manufacturers, like the mold, the plastic components, and the PCB and things. But finally, it's going to be BlackFrog that is going to be bringing it all together, assembling, testing, packaging, and deploying. So that's fine. That's end of the day going to be still us.
Yeah. So I can see that you're quite driven by this energy to bring out your product in the market. I'm sure you have this learning lesson or a message for other aspiring entrepreneurs.
So particularly with regard to the pandemic right now, I understand that the economy is down, everybody is taking a very bad hit, and things are not really panning out very well for a lot of people. But I mean, during this pandemic also there's a lot of opportunities for a lot of people who can actually use their existing technologies or existing whatever it may be, right? It can be an application, it can be a technology in terms of hardware or whatever it may be, can be applied for the mitigation of COVID and also subsequently after for recovery as well, right? So that is where we came in, that we realized that this is actually a very good opportunity for us to capitalize on and ensure that at the same time we can actually help the society as well, because these devices are going to ensure that the samples are transported and maintained at 4 degrees to ensure that at least there's no compromise during transportation. That is very important, because we don't want it to get to a stage where it is community spreading that's happening, and the COVID doesn't get as bad as how it is happening in some of the other countries. Right, so we've done a good job in our country so far, so we want to stick to doing that. So what I would like to say is that even though it might not look very bright, but it actually is based on how you look at it, and we encourage everybody to look at it the same way. So, and we actually go to I actually personally go to the COVID ward once every 2 days. So it's quite frightening to go when you see people who would like not even come anywhere close to you. No matter what, right? And everybody's wearing 3 or 4 layers of PP and all of those things. So it's quite scary, but at the same time, you're making impact. So that is what keeps us driven, and that's where.
Okay, when you heard first time My Startup TV, okay, and when you know that's a channel called My Startup TV that helps create it's a platform for startups. What's your first reaction?
First of all, I want to thank you guys for doing this. Thank you for the interview and running this channel where you're dedicating. Is very helpful, and especially in a place where entrepreneurship is not seen as a real task in society. So I think put out the information over what startup companies do, what they go through, and what is the tangible impact that we are able to produce is very important for 2 reasons. One is that we historically had a little bit of a negative connotation for starting a business, which is changing right now. I mean, India is moving in a direction where we're addressing that the backbone of economy is new companies, and secondly, it's about job creation. We're heading towards a point where by 2027, India is going to be the world's largest workforce, which means we need jobs, and the way to go about creating jobs is creating new companies. So I'm very happy that you have a channel where you're talking to entrepreneurs, talking to companies, and the kind of impact you're producing, and getting us that outreach, which is very necessary for a company in our stage. So yeah, thank you guys for doing this.
You guys are based out of, where are you based out of?
Manipal.
Manipal. When you talk about startups, it is basically the cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Delhi. These are the guys, these are cities that hog all the limelight. You guys are sitting in Manipal and doing it. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So one of the reasons we're doing that is because all three of us are originally from Manipal. We grew up, we went to the same school, college, everything we based out of Manipal itself. And that obviously means we found no reason to move to Bangalore or Mumbai to start a company. Secondly, I mean, we have a lot of good talent here. We have a lot of engineering colleges and a lot of students, very sharp students who complete their studies, but they move to Mumbai or Bangalore for seeking employment. So this is, I mean, it's just appropriate that we start a company here so that we can stop that brain drain from coastal Karnataka specifically, right? So that's the second reason that we decided on sticking back in Manipal. I mean, it does come with a lot of challenges with supply chain, with partners, and the ecosystem, which is non-existent in a tier 3, tier 4 city, right? So it is very difficult, but I think the more difficult it is, it needs to be done.
That's completely contrary to what general belief is, or people believe that talent is available in metro cities. And Manipal is definitely a nice city because it's got the best of the engineering colleges, the best of the medical colleges, and everything else, management. So it makes a lot of sense to be working out of this place. And you're also in a way you're kind of putting Manipal onto the map of startup, isn't it? Are there other startups also in Manipal, or is there a startup ecosystem in Manipal other than you guys? How's the ecosystem in Manipal?
Right. So currently we are incubated under Manipal Universal Business Technology Incubator. That is the MIT's incubator itself. Under them currently, their focus is mostly on medical devices itself. And there are a few other companies here like us here. Most of us are through and can get. But we apart from our partners or our Manipal, we also have other partners in Pune and Bangalore as well. So how it works out for us is that in terms of our operational costs are quite cheap, and so that way it justifies us being here. Not to mention that we are from here, and also in this Manipal and Bangalore area, there are a lot of engineering colleges and like a huge batch of students graduate every year. So it is very convenient for us to actually go recruit the best out of the entire lot. So that's how our R&D activities are actually getting done well and on time. So that's why it's actually worked out quite well for us to be here. And also in terms of setting up our assembly plant, also we are planning on doing it in this area itself, because finding again a space and the people for you to work in that space again, it's going to be quite economical as well. So that's why it's going to work out for us. So that is what it is.
Manipal definitely is known, so known as a knowledge city. But you guys right. are putting Manipal on the map of startup, isn't it?
Right. So okay. So the reason why we chose Manipal is, apart from being from Manipal, is that Manipal has the best engineering college and also the medical college as well. So what happens here is that when you are working on any kind of medical devices or any of that kind of similar activities, it becomes very easy for you to get your inputs directly from the doctors or the staff of KMC, and also get the engineering talent from MIT. So this is the only place. This is one of the only few places in the country where you get both of it at the same place. So that's how I would like to put it. And also, not to mention that we've got good support from MIT as well prior to this. And actually, both Mayur and Ashish are alumnus of MIT. And I actually went to Mangalore Institute of Technology in Mangalore. So that's how it's been. Yeah.
I understand a little bit more from you guys. Why don't you deliberate upon it a little more about the support you're getting from both the MITs and the Manipal Medical College, or Manipal as a whole. This is would be of great interest to other aspiring entrepreneurs to explore Manipal as the center or as one of the emerging centers for startups.
Yeah, you know how they say it takes a village to raise a child. So similarly, it takes a nation to build a startup company from scratch. And specifically, healthcare space and a few domain where the entire community is very close knit. So it's very hard to break that eggshell. And healthcare, especially considering how regulated it is, it's almost close to space and military that way. It makes a lot of sense to be in Manipal because this is where technology and healthcare kind of come and join hands. Manipal is known for cutting edge research in healthcare, and that's what's been going on over the last 50 years. Technology has not so much been, it's very cut off from healthcare up until now. Right now, they're shifting focus into health technologies, and with even Government of India's focus on emerging as a healthcare hub for the rest of the for the world, that for that matter, I think Manipal is very appropriate from that standpoint. And even previously, the hospitals and the research facilities in Manipal University, they were conducting a lot of clinical trials and certain aspects of drug development, which was being done by either industry or companies abroad as well. So they would take up very particular aspects of commercialization. But right now, I think they're trying to build a end-to-end solution for commercialization, right from inception to the point where the solution is delivered to a end customer, right? So I think from that standpoint, I would say Manipal it's the right place to be.
So are the state government or the central government, are they putting up any resources to build the startup ecosystem or grow the startup ecosystem in Manipal? If yes, what are those? If not, what kind of support you would like to see, whether from the state government or from the central government, to come up in Manipal?
Yeah, so we have a Government of Karnataka bio incubator in the Manipal University campus itself. So the state government of Karnataka is putting in a lot of thought, effort, and resources in that direction. So Startup Karnataka is one of their initiative where a lot of focus is going in that direction to ensure new companies, specifically in healthcare, come up. But I mean, with Government of India, it's very obvious. It's their priority right now. Healthcare companies are what Government of India has been looking for. I mean, we've completely been funded by Government of India so far. We individually got fellowships for developing a concept, and then we got a proof of concept grant from Government of India. Even our seed funding is from Government of India. So I mean, in our case specifically, because we're in public health, it makes sense because end of the day, the customer is also Government of India. But even otherwise, everything from wound healing devices to new technology in hand sanitizers and agri products, everything to do with healthcare and biosciences, I think India has been leading the efforts, and I think we're going to be bearing the fruits of that in the next decade or so. I don't think I have any complaints as such, but yeah, periodically we do bring up certain issues that we face, and Government of India does listen for that matter. With Invest India, and they have a program called Agni by the principal scientific advisor to the PMO, who periodically check up on us for any issues we're facing with compliance, with customs, with duties, any taxation, legal issues. So they're very empathetic to startup companies, what I would say.
Thank you, Mayur. Thank you, Donson and Ashlesh, for being with us. And you're doing a great deed for the society. We wish you all the best for it. And we would still be looking for a standalone refrigerator with more beer capacity.
Absolutely, yes. That's our next direction for R&D.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
Bye. Bye, guys.